My name is Gloria Ruback. I'm from Houston. I'm with the Texas Death Penalty Abolition Movement. And we started doing this back in the year 2000 when executions were just like every week, where executions were happening so fast that you barely had time to make signs to protest the next one. That was in 2000. Every year we have gathered here in Austin. Well, we did it a few years in Houston, but here in Austin at the Capitol, near the governor's mansion, to protest the death penalty. We've come a long way. Public support for capital punishment is now below 50%. Yeah. Executions are way down. People being sentenced to death, that number is way down. So what we gotta do is take the whole death penalty down and kill it once for all and put it out of its misery. Okay, I want to introduce somebody that I am so happy is here with us today. His name is Clinton Young. He got out of death row 2 years ago, and I will let him tell his story. I haven't seen him since I used to see him in the visiting room at death row. I am beyond thrilled that you are here with us today. Clinton Young.
Let me put this up here. I talk with my hands a lot, so I'm gonna set this right here, right? Like Gloria said, I spent 18 and a half years on Texas death row, a total of 21 years incarcerated. I just turned 18 years old, and Midland County prosecutors decided that all the other efforts to accomplish seeking the death penalty had failed, and so they pulled out all the stops for me. Years and years and years after insane legal opinions and bad lawyers, stuck in solitary confinement, no human contact besides the guards when they escort her somewhere, handcuffed behind her back, not being able to touch my family, having to have visits behind glass, and additionally receiving an execution date for October 26, 2017. I was 8 days away from being executed when it came out that my co-defendant gave false testimony. As I was waiting on a hearing which would have showed that my conviction itself was based on false testimony, it came out that a prosecutor in my case was getting paid by the judge. So he would work as a prosecutor, write up legal opinions for the judge, and the judge would then turn around and pay him. Well, I guess the Court of Criminal Appeals felt that that was too egregious, and they overturned my conviction. And then thankfully I was able to raise the funds and get out on bond, and here I am today, right? I've seen a lot of people throughout the years that was executed, and it all comes down to the lawyer you got. Like Gloria said about it disproportionately affecting the poor and minorities and mentally ill. I mean, that's true. Just from being down there, all a person has to do is look inside the penitentiaries and see. Part of a poem I wrote said, "No rich man ever came here, no poor man ever left here." And if I wouldn't have been able to get the international attention that I was able to obtain and raise the funds and get the lawyers that I had, the reality is I wouldn't be standing here today. You know, a lot of cases though, you see a lot of cases in the media that they make Netflix about, like Rodney Reed, what's her name, the woman on death row? Melissa Lucio, and etc. But there's a lot more people down there that have problems in their case that show innocence. If not complete 100% innocence, they never should have been convicted of capital murder. But unfortunately, those same people also suffer from mental illness, so they're at the mercy of attorneys and people, activists that are willing to step up and take the case for them. They say that the death penalty also is reserved for the worst of the worst, and that's why they have to kill. That's why the government justifies killing its citizens. Well, myself Anthony Graves, Ernest Willis, Alfred Brown, Albert Love, Bobby Moore, Cesar Fierro. We were all on death row together. All of us are free now, which I believe Caesar's passed away, unfortunately. May he rest in peace. But at one point in time, a jury deemed us all dangerous and that we had to be permanently removed from society. We had to be killed. And yet everybody's out here living good lives. Nobody's been in trouble. Nobody's hurt nobody. Nobody's killed nobody. So that shows that no matter what, people change. None of y'all at 30 are going to be the same as you was at 18, etc. Especially when you add drugs and mental illness and broken homes into the equation. And so that within itself is why the death penalty makes no sense. We don't kill people just for killing people. There's tens of thousands of people, unfortunately, incarcerated within the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for murder. It's sadly a crime that happens, too often in our society. And that within itself helps show that how arbitrary the death penalty is. It also comes down to what county you're from. If you're in Austin, because the politics of the district attorney here, if you commit a capital murder with 4 or 5 victims, you're not getting a death penalty, you're getting life. But if you're in Tarrant County, because of the politics of Tarrant County, they're sending your ass straight to death row. And if the system is supposed to be designed upon equal justice for all, that's not equal justice, because the punishment isn't equally applied. But they know they can't send everybody down there. Over the years, I myself, when I went to death row, I'll talk it to like changing as a man. When I first went to death row, I was angry. I was 18 years old when I got I was 19 when I got the death penalty. I had trash court-appointed attorneys, and one of them is not even allowed to work on death penalty cases anymore. And so I took my anger out. Unfortunately, I burned a lot of bridges. I spent a lot of time on disciplinary level, lashing out at the guards. And more people started writing me because I started advocating my case and getting more attention out there. Social media became more prevalent. I took advantage of social media. And I realized that there's a big world out there besides where we come from. And a lot of the people that took the time to write me and spend time with me, it helped me grow. It helped me see the world through a bigger lens versus the narrow lens of growing up as a small town country boy in East Texas. And the amazing people that stepped up to help me and help other people there. It just shows that, the depth of human kindness. I had somebody ask me at the Democrat convention here in Texas, if after all I've been through, have I lost faith in humanity? And I said, hell no. If anything, my faith was restored, even more so because of all the beautiful people. They didn't have to write me. They didn't have to send money. They didn't have to stand up and fight for me and petition for me. But they did. They took time out of their lives and dedicated it to myself, as well as other guys down there. And so going to death row is crazy. A lot of people don't seem to understand, when I break it down to them, if I would have got life in prison being the way it is, who knows how things would have ended up. But going to death row really saved my life because it changed me as a human being. It made me a better person. It made me a stronger person. It made me realize that there was just so much more I could do in this world, and which I continue to try to do with activism and raising awareness. And a lot of people get out, they don't want to speak out because they're afraid of the system. Because once the system focuses on you, everybody knows how powerful the government is. I ain't never had much sense, so I don't know how to shut up. You know what I'm saying? So I've been speaking out, so I got out, right? They couldn't shut me up when I was down there. They ain't gonna shut me up when I'm out here, right? They try though. Already, huh? And so the thing is that the system the death penalty is in decline. The usage, the application, executions, all of them are in decline. When I first got to death row, they was executing 30, 40 people a year. And now it's just 3 or 4, I think maybe 6 this year. And so it's had a drastic decline. And I think in part of that's because of awareness to it. A lot more people are becoming aware that there's wrongful convictions. and through all the documentaries and social media and newspaper stories and just the prevalence of information. I work in the oil field, so I work around a bunch of, redneck, good old boys. And the interesting thing is, when they all talk to me one-on-one, they all talk about how they got messed over this way or that way. A cop done this when they were 18, or a cop done that when they were 30. I'm like, damn, bro, but you keep voting in the same people that support them. Like, so I mean, if you're aware the system's broken, you got to speak up and do something about it, right? And that's why I'm glad that everybody came out today, right? Is it because it's not over with yet. Unfortunately, there's still execution scheduled. There's still people getting denied based on poor lawyers. That's what it comes down to. Rodney Reed's one of them. He's trying to speak to me, huh? But it's just hard for a lot of people to comprehend, because generally we're raised to believe in the system. We're raised to believe, growing up in school, the government and the power lies with the people, and that there's justice, that we have the best system. They always say that our jury system, while not perfect, is the best in the world. But the reality is not true. You have 12 uneducated people having to make a decision based on which lawyer made the best argument. That's the essence of our adversarial system. And usually with lawyers, you get what you pay for. And additionally, a lot of people, like you see these cases in the newspaper, some of them are high profile cases, and you don't realize, okay, what got them to that point. I think very few people in life, when they're kids, say, I want to grow up and go to death row. Most people want to accomplish greater things in life. So something got them to that point. Our education system fails our students. Child Protective Services fails our children, especially in Texas. I mean, there were so many guys that was down there with me on death row that had been adopted and gone through foster care systems. And it's a common denominator. And your environment shapes you. Nobody's just born just a bad human being. There's external stimuli that comes into play that creates this person that ends up making these devastating choices that becomes tragedy for everybody. I mean, somebody loses their life, their family is destroyed. The guy that commits the act, his life is over with, his family is destroyed. Society as a whole is affected by the coverage of the crime or being in your neighborhood. And so instead of looking at, okay, I need to kill this guy because he done something, that's not a deterrent. A deterrent would be learning from the people that get into these situations and then working to reform the systems that keep people from growing up and becoming killers, from joining gangs, from feeling like the only way they can have economic success is through selling drugs. I myself had a history with gangs. Being an abused child, I looked at gangs as power. It was a means for me to instill fear in other people because I was an afraid child, right? And it took me, like I said, being on death row and growing up and dealing with so many different people to realize that the true power comes in the love and relationships that you build from everyday life. And I spoke at the Capitol to the House of Criminal Justice 4, 5, 6 months ago. And I was sitting there talking to him. I realized, first of all, I never believed that I would be standing before all these politicians. But I was standing there, I realized that this is where the power lies, right? And it really sunk into me at how important it is that people participate in our electoral process, because usually, those who are best suited to serve the actual people aren't the ones that we end up putting in office. Trying to think. To wrap it up so somebody else can speak. I've been out 2 years, and every day something reminds me where I came from. Like, I never forget. Some people want to forget, but I don't want to forget, because it affected me in so many ways, positive and negative. Like, I got my daily struggles, right? I got out, you know, it was hard, right? I mean, there's this big whole world ahead of you, right? I went from sitting in the cell, having officers bringing me everything, depending on people to send me money for commissary, depending on people to write me. I went from that to now I have to work. Now I have to pay bills. I had to get a driver's license. And when I got out, I didn't have my Social Security card. And thankfully I had, you know, the Clinton Young Foundation, people from there that was able to support me, and a family that stood beside me. Or else, I mean, I'd been stuck because I didn't even have proof of residency. I couldn't even prove I was a resident of Texas, because I went in when I was 18, and I called TDCJ, and I'm like, hey, you know, I got out. I need release papers. And they said, yeah, we talked about you, but we don't know what to do. I was like, what do you mean you don't know what to do? And they said, well, we never had nobody in your situation. Nobody gets out like that. And I was like, well, that's a problem within itself, but I can't get my identification. I can't get a driver's license unless I got proof that I'm a resident of the state of Texas. I'm like, well, I'll talk to some people, see what I can do. They never done nothing, right? And so after doing all that time, it ain't just for somebody getting off death row, but there's a lot of people serving 60, 70, 80, 90 years, and they're gonna make parole eventually between 20 or 30, 40 years. And they're released into society, especially those, because there's a solitary confinement to, especially those that are put into solitary confinement for whatever various reason TDCJ feels that day to lock somebody up. And they're released back into society. So when people want to talk about community safety, if you take somebody that's been in prison, that's got out, and you don't have no programs that help support them when they get out, how are they going to be a productive citizen? I mean, you want people to get out of prison, to change their lives, to get jobs, to work, and do good. But because of the nature of this state and how they choose to spend their money, there's not a lot of programs or anything in place that helps people when they get out of prison.
They need them before they get out.
Right, that's why, yeah, they do. Really, they need to have stuff that works for people before they get out to help them get lined out. And not everybody gets out at that amount of time in solitary confinement, but like I did. And the reality was, and I ended up actually getting a pretrial agent that truly in a lot of ways became a blessing when I got out. And she was like, what do you mean they didn't do nothing for you when you got out? They just let you out? I said, yeah, they just opened the door and let me out. You know, I mean, at one point they're saying I'm so dangerous I gotta die, and now they're just opening the door for me and say, hey, good luck. You know, you're free. And so thankfully my mom and Meryl, the lawyer from the Clinton Young Foundation, and my baby sister was there for me to help me navigate this whole world that had changed vastly since I went in at 18 years old, right? And so that's something a lot of people gotta think about is, okay, you can be tough on crime, but you gotta also believe that people can change, all right? If you don't wanna fund the prisons and they're gonna get out, then if you don't want them crawling through your window, then it makes more sense that you initiate programs that help them become successful people, you know? And thankfully, like I said, I had enough. I was worried at first. Like my baby sister told me, and I argued with her, right? She's like, look, these people ain't gonna accept you. I'm telling you, I went through hell as a kid because of your case. And she never shared that with me, right? Like I never thought about how my actions truly affected my family, right? And so, you know, she lost friends in school and etc. because their parents judged my mom and my baby sister, which, I mean, I was the black sheep of the family. But, and so society, yeah, I am, my bad, I get along with it. Society has this, a lot of people have this problem of wanting to condemn and punish and prosecute. But what after that? I mean, what are you gonna do when people get out? You know, I mean, do you just leave people in cells for the rest of their life? That's not plausible, especially in 2023. I thank everybody for coming out. I ask y'all to, you know, please, if you're not completely against the death penalty, educate yourself, because there's innocent people that have been executed, and there's innocent people who still remain on death row. Juan Valdez, Rodney Reed, Jeff Woods, that's a few of them, right? They admit Jeff Woods didn't even kill nobody, and he's still down there. And And so you can go to the, what's your website? Abolitionistmovement.org, the Clinton Young Foundation. I mean, you just get this Google anything regarding to the death penalty, and you'll see all the different organizations, right? I thank all y'all for listening. All right.